Hello, City Skylines fans. I'm Socksway Up, and welcome back to the 50K challenge that we're doing on the Archipelago map. I learned how to say it. Congratulations to me. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone that checked out the first video. I'm really overwhelmed. It's about 8 hours after the release, and the results have been pretty insane for one of our videos for this channel. Really blown away. Don't know what to say. We're going to keep it going. We're going to try to keep up with the pace of what we were doing. And I'm going to start off by getting out of this menu and starting the clock, because we're gonna look around and let's see, is that running? There it is. Okay, so let's take a look at things, making sure electricity's good. Water treatment, we're gonna have to look at pretty soon. Garbage processing, we're definitely gonna have to take care of that. I don't want a bunch of landfills. I'd rather process the garbage. I think that's a safer way to do it. Education's looking okay for the type of jobs that we have. We have a lot of jobs that need uneducated employees still. Over in the regular industrial area, you can see 12 uneducated is the requirement. So it's kind of a balancing act there, where if we keep the education right around yellow, in my experience, you're able to keep those jobs fulfilled and not wasting the highly educated people on the yellow industry jobs and not the office jobs. Let's keep going here. Traffic. I have a feeling by the end of this hour, we're going to struggle there. Let's see, the water pollution has disappeared. That's good. We just have these 3 islands. Crime's also a little bit out of control at this point. Public transportation, we started adding some buses. Definitely need to start thinking about that pretty soon. Land value's gonna be important. It's gonna be important. A lot of these things are gonna be important. I have no clue how this is gonna go. I've said that multiple times. Natural disasters, we stay away from that. Let's see, anything else we need to look at? Destruction, I don't think we really care about that. Citizen happiness is looking okay. Commercial could be a little bit better, so could office. We will get that going. But I'm gonna go ahead and hand you off to our... Words are hard. I'll hand you off to the time-lapse Socksway Up here. Let's get started. One last thing I want to plug before we jump into talking about the video. In the description, there'll be a link to the Discord. We're getting that up and running again, trying to get people to join. It's in the description. I keep forgetting to mention it in the videos, but we're doing that now. I think that'd be an awesome way to have people join the conversation and talk about these things that we're doing in these videos, and also help us come up with new ideas for other challenges that we can do in other City Skylines playthroughs and other games that we're going to try out as well in this channel. But enough plugs. You can see here we're starting to build the road structures of some of these islands before zoning them. And one of the things I started noticing at this point was I wasn't only building this like I do for maximizing population. Some of the road structure and layouts I do in regular builds as well, just not as crammed tight, and I don't zone the same. So some of the, like I said, some of the road structures are similar to some of my other builds. It's just I don't zone on the main roads, I just zone on the interior roads. So that's the big difference if you check out some of the other City Skylines builds that I've done. But you definitely see that when I do the road structure in this next island. I start getting into some of the turns and curves of the road that we actually do instead of keeping it a complete grid, because I try to stay away from that in other builds, and it was starting to creep in as I was naturally just playing and building a city here and designing out the road structure. But it's still fun to do it this way. I don't know how many other people have tried to just cram population into small islands like this. It's actually really enjoyable and a nice challenge for yourself. As mentioned many times before already in these 2 videos, timing and cycles of the game are going to be very important. So some of this building that I was doing in the first 8-ish minutes was letting the game catch up and do some of those cycles and making sure that the demands were actually balancing out. If you overzone, the balance of the demands gets a little confusing. You'll see the green doesn't go away or the green will never grow if you overzone residential, because the game recognizes that there's residential available. So it's a little bit of a balancing act I was trying to do and not get ahead of myself. That also seems to be one of the keys when you are doing some speed runs too, is making sure the balance of the demands stay intact. And we run into a huge problem by the end of this video where it wants so much industry. I don't know why the game without mods wants so much industry. I've ranted about this enough. Let's move on. But you can see here we're building a new area just for education before we add some of the residential. I wanted to have nice elementary school, high school, and some parks in place prior to zoning the residents and having them move in. I thought having those services available day one is a nice way to do it. It's pretty cool, and you don't have to worry about demolishing buildings when you're like, oh man, I forgot education. We kind of forgot about medical, but we sneak that in as well as police and fire later. You can see here we're adding a little bit more water treatment. Watching the needs or the resource needs of like electricity and water is going to be important as well. And we keep popping into those tabs and making sure that we don't run out of electricity or don't run out of water. That's going to be really key to keeping the city constantly growing at a good pace. You can see here, we're kind of taking a break, checking all the populations, seeing how we're doing, demolishing some buildings that were abandoned just to kind of help replace some of those commercial buildings and office buildings so that that demand can balance out, hoping that we don't have to place a ton more. Checking in on traffic here, we're starting to see some coming and going. If you're not new to the Sox Way Up channel, you know that I like traffic. I just don't like gridlock. I think traffic makes for a realistic city, realistic screenshots, realistic videos. Gridlock does not. So we want to stay away from gridlock, and we're not going to be able to grow the city if we hit gridlock. But at this point, we kind of run into another step of needing to let the game just kind of run and do its thing. And you can see I'm just kind of demolishing buildings, checking the levels of things, making sure schools are populated, that we have enough, adding in some parks, making sure that's all happy. As the game just runs at ×3 to get us there. We're almost at 14,000 already at this point, 18 minutes into this build. It's going good, adding a single bus line here just to help out with a little bit of the service demand that they're gonna have eventually. Next episode, we'll probably go really deep into public transportation. Not really sure yet. I'm kind of just sitting down and playing, and really was thinking of not doing the public transportation until we absolutely needed to, but I think the best way to success is going to be getting ahead of that prior to the traffic getting pretty bad. So we'd also realized that we didn't add another cemetery. So the fact that we had a little bit of space over here, we added the crematories so that we didn't have to have another cemetery. Hopefully that's enough. I have a feeling that one might bite us in the end. Every time we go into the purchase a tile screen, if it was slowed down, you can kind of see me thinking with the mouse moving, with the cursor moving. I'm kind of doing the math on how many tiles we have left to see which ones we can get open. And by the end of this episode, spoiler alert, we get all 9 tiles open. So we know what land we're gonna have to build on long term to get up to that 50,000 number. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that 20,000 was doable on here. It's actually pretty easy to get to 20,000 population on this map. 50,000, that's going to be the challenge. But there we made somewhat of an Alcatraz. We made our own little prison island, and then we'll add a little bit more to it later, but that was needed to take care of some of the criminals in town. But this nice crescent moon-shaped island is really going to be the key to success. I think that's really going to be the one that we really have to focus on getting a lot of people in. Doing some math later on, we kind of talk about it in the outro. We figure out the key to success and how we get there and how quickly we can get there. I'm excited. I'm going to finish doing the voiceover of this and probably record episode 3 right away. Super thrilled, super excited to be back in City Skylines. But here, expanding to another island, and this, we're letting the game do the cycles while we pre-plan these roads. It's definitely the best way to go. I was thinking about doing just a little section of it and keep populating, keep zoning, but I wanted to see if that industry demand would shrink. I wanted to see if some things would balance out, but it doesn't. It doesn't, and it's very annoying to me, to be honest with you. Again, I said I wasn't gonna rant about that. And we're gonna keep the same theme that we did in the first episode. These smaller islands are gonna be industrial. We're gonna get those up eventually. We'll get roads around them. I don't remember if I go as circular or outlining the island like we've done with the roads on these ones. Some of them I might have gone a little lazy. This one, I guess we did do the outline. But you can see it's a lot of rinse and repeat in this episode. I don't know when. Eventually we're gonna get into traffic management. Not completely in this episode. Maybe I'm surprised. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm shocked that I didn't have to spend more time on traffic management by the end of this episode. Adding the solar panel the solar powered power station was key right there. We're probably not going to have to worry about power for a very long time. We had it in the budget. You can see we're still making $8,000 a month. So income is good. You can see that's constantly increasing as we get another industrial island going and add a little bit of commercial in there to help out. I always say that, that's workers going to lunch while they're working. They don't want to go all the way to a different island. So we're going to give them some services on that island. Even though this is a challenge, I'm still trying to keep a little bit of realism. That's the word I'm looking for. Trying to keep a little bit of realism involved here. And just to show that we're not cutting anything out, this was our potty break time. I had to use the restroom and fill up my water. There's a lot of people waiting for the bus. That's making me dizzy. Then we're back to it. So this island, we're gonna start slowly building out and slowly adding things to. We're not even gonna completely finish this in the next 25 minutes of gameplay. You know, obviously we gotta get the water all added to it. So we're taking care of that first prior to zoning anything. You know, most playthroughs are gonna cut this out of the video, but trying to keep it true to the time zone. I don't think timing's even gonna become an issue, so there won't be any questions about 24 hours. I think next time we do one of those, I might cut it down to 12 hours. I was playing around with the idea of adding a monument in here or some type of high demand building to kind of increase the property value. Decided against that for now. That's something we'll keep in our back pocket if we want to really increase the property value or the demand of an area. That could come into play later on. The way things are going, the numbers we're hitting per island and the calculations I've done in my head, my confidence is growing every island we go to. Square footage wise, zoning wise, we're gonna have enough space. As mentioned a million times already, traffic's gonna be the big gotcha. Being able to keep people in the city and not leave the city because trash isn't getting piled up or dead bodies aren't being piled up. That's gonna be the real key to success. You can see here, we're also starting to expand some roads and make them bigger so they can handle a little bit more traffic. Not always, or that doesn't always work in City Skylines without Traffic Manager mod, but we're gonna try to make the best of it. Some of these we also add stop signs. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it makes traffic worse in Vanilla City Skylines, so we play around with multiple setups as I stumble on my words. This section here, I definitely somewhat forgot that this was a population challenge and was designing a city. We don't waste a lot of space though. I think it's gonna be fine. I caught myself in the middle of it as I was starting to just zone and design the road layout. I wasn't utilizing all of the green space or the empty space. There was areas where there weren't able to zone anything. So I do catch on to that and I adjust really quickly. It's that office area specifically that I was talking about. I was starting to play around with the road design that was gonna waste a lot of zonable space. Again, we're labeling these so that we can get our estimate on the population. We have 20K on there. That's gonna put us at 33K for the 3 islands that have people populated on them or residents living on. That's pretty close, only 17,000 to go on the other islands as you've seen which ones we've unlocked already. It seems doable, like I said, so the confidence is growing. Here is where I learn, as we had someone mention in comments as well. As you can see on the screen, Fort Day EXE, yeah, you do not really want to use IT clusters in a population challenge. We're gonna get 8 workers per building. Come on, who thought that was a good idea? I definitely got realistic population and Vanilla City Skylines confused when I thought that was a good idea. Honestly, I have no idea why it's that way in Vanilla City Skylines. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's not complain. Here you can see the office demand or the industry demand was out of control. So this whole line on the beach, instead of being beachfront property, turned into offices. And this pizza design that we kind of have going is going to continue to grow, and we're going to have some residential behind the offices. And of course, if I haven't mentioned it, we like to use the offices because you can get away more with having residential touching it. It would be nice if we would have split at least 1 block of commercial in between. Noise might become somewhat of an issue, but pollution won't be. So that's one thing that we did there. You can see here, we're decided to add a little bit more industry near, or actually some electricity and garbage control near the prison. Why not have the prisoners have water treatment, garbage, and electricity all by their prison? And all milestones were unlocked. All tiles were quickly unlocked. Not much of a sneak preview for you there. You can probably scroll back or rewind and pause it and take a look at all the tiles that we unlocked. More offices, adding more of them here. The demand just kept on growing. By the time we finish this episode, we have 7 minutes left in the playthrough on this episode. It finally started to balance out, and I think we finally got it under control, so we start adding more residents, but we're going to want to let the game cycle before we do that. You can see we're starting to see some green pop up in the demands, but even the offices are up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's driving me nuts. You can see here we're playing around a little bit with traffic. We notice in the entrance of the city, as we hit 21,000, almost 22,000 already, we're starting to see traffic issues. We tried the stop sign. It made it worse. We reversed that. We decided that's not going to help. We tried this little slip road. It doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem like the traffic's really going to that industrial building or the industrial island right away. So we might do the reverse of that and start building somewhat of a freeway system soon as traffic starts getting worse. That's probably the plan if it's needed. But you can see traffic is starting to get to, honestly, the point where I like the traffic. They're stopping at stoplights. They're having to wait a little bit to get around town. Feels realistic to me. Some other people don't play the game that way. That's how I like it. 100% traffic's not realistic. Hopefully right there is the last bit of offices that we add for a really long time. And I probably talk about that in the outro. I don't remember. But traffic, again, start next episode. We're probably going to keep an eye on that. Getting to about 30,000 by next episode and playing with traffic is probably a pretty good goal. But at this point, we do hit that 22,000 number, which we're well on our way. And I'm going to hand you over to the other socks. Okay, well, that was eventful. We were almost halfway there. We're at 22,200 and traffic's starting to be an issue here. The entrance, we played around, as you saw, with changing some junctions, and that seemed to make it worse, so we reverted that. I'm not too concerned with all these little bubbles and not enough educated workers. As we keep educating people, that's just going to constantly increase, and we are starting to see a little bit of a flip, though, as we're slowing down on educating. We're getting too many offices, which I think this might be the end of the offices, and I might try to find maybe this island here for more of the regular, what is it just called? Industry? Yeah, the industrial zone, and then maybe populate here as well. We're just getting a lot of offices for the population that we have, but it's going good. I thought we would run into more of a traffic issue now, maybe at about 35,000. Is when it'll really kick in. We will see. But we're only, man, at this rate, we only have a couple more episodes of this. I think we'll maybe 5, unless we run into a huge traffic issue. And we might not have to do a redesign at this point, because we still have this large Island 9. We still got a lot of area here to populate, which we probably will get that up to 20. So if we have 4,000 in here now, we add 16 more thousand. That gets us to 40,000. That gets us 38,000. That means we just have to find 12,000 between here and here. And now that I'm looking at this, I might drop this down and spread it out a little bit. Maybe do some low residential. Yeah, low density residential and upgrade it as needed just to kind of help traffic. We have a lot more room than I thought. I went real high density heavy earlier than I really wanted to, but it seems to be playing in our favor so far. We're at 22,000. It's going really good. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Socks Way Up. I'll catch you on the next one next week.